Welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to take that slight detour that I spoke about earlier, and we're going to learn about date functions in BigQuery and how to work with them. Keeping track of where we are in our outline, we've already completed part 1, the first half of this module, leveling our data and group by. And in this lesson, we're going to cover the different date types that BigQuery has and how to work with them. Let's get started. Date data types. We have a couple different ways that we can express dates and times. Date types, we first have timestamp. So this includes your regular date, January 2nd, 2022, but it also includes the actual time, hour, minute, second, millisecond component. So when you hear timestamp, you're thinking something that's very, very accurate down to the second. Date is zoomed out a little bit. This is typically only at the day, month, year level. So when you think of that, you're going to think of a calendar date versus a timestamp. You're thinking down to the second. There are other date types within SQL, and they might be called different things if you're using BigQuery versus MySQL or different things. But in general, they're all the same. There's some level of date or timestamp. Working with date type functions can be really difficult in coding languages. I've had a lot of difficulty before in the past using Python or R because they're so specific and there's all these different types of date functions. That's not the case in BigQuery. BigQuery makes it really easy because they have a lot of out-of-the-box functions. We're going to go through a bunch of examples showing how you can work with date functions that we'll be using through the rest of this module. Let's take a look at some of the date data that we have in our taxi cab data. So if I just do control click, I can look here and see all of the different field types. So let's specifically look at the pick up date time and the drop off date time. So let's do a quick select star from my table. And we're going to, not select star, that is the opposite of what I just said. Select pick up date time, comma, drop off date time. We'll order by 1, which is pickup time, and we'll limit to just our 10 rows like we usually do. An error because I just did order instead of order by, so I just added that there, limit 10. I can clearly see that this appears to be timestamp data, and that's because we have the year, the month, the day, and then we also have what looks like hour, minute, and second. And UTC stands for universal time. And so that's, you don't have to worry about, oh, what are the difference in this time to that time? And then I also have to adjust for it being in Eastern versus Central time zones. So this does make it a lot easier having it in a universal. And I can also confirm that by looking at my schema here, and I see for pickup date time and drop off date time, these are both timestamps. So I'm going to close this table, get our window a little bigger. So let's do some extraction on these pickup date time and drop off date time and just pull out individual components of each. So suppose instead of wanting this full timestamp, I just want the date. The way to do that is really easy in BigQuery. All you have to do is type in the function date, open parentheses, close parentheses, and we'll call this as, we're going to rename it to something else. We're going to do pickup date because we're cutting off the time, so that feels like a good name for it. And then we'll do the same thing here, date drop off as drop off date. And so when I run this, we see that the pickup date and the drop-off date, we've gotten rid of all of the timestamps, and it looks like, at least in these first 10 that we picked up, the person was picked up and dropped off in the same day. That sounds reasonable, but there could be an option where maybe someone got dropped off at midnight. They got picked up at 11:30 and they got dropped off at midnight. So then you could have 2 different days. Let's see if we could filter out any of the columns where our pickup date and our drop-off date are not equal. So let's try it. So we're just going to do this. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, are there any rows where this value does not equal this value? And the not equal in BigQuery are these 2 greater than equal signs, and they kind of go together like that. Okay, so we're going to say, show me the dates for pickup, the dates for drop-off from this table where the date for pickup does not equal the date for drop-off. Let's see if we get anything. Okay, and so this looks like it's probably exactly that example that I described to you. So there was probably someone who got picked up on January 1st, which is New Year's Day, and then they had a really fun day on the holiday, and they got dropped off at their final location, technically the day after New Year's. Okay, so if you want to strip out your timestamp, all you have to do is put date. So what if I did date, instead of putting the date, I just said where the pickup date time is not equal to the drop-off date time? What would this return? So you see, this is different, right? So here we have our pickup date and our drop-off date, and the dates themselves are the same. Why is that? That's because this where filter that I said, find me where the timestamps are different. So there's a lot of rows. I would say almost every row is probably where the pickup is not equal to the drop off, because you pick someone up and you drop them off somewhere else and some time happens in between. So that's why we had to put the date in front. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's try something else. Instead of cutting off the hour, the minute, the second, what if we try to extract or pull out an individual component? So with that, you do extract. We want to extract, let's start with the hour. And then you say from the column. And we're going to say as hour drop off. And let's do the same thing. Hour from the pickup as hour pickup. And then let's get rid of these 2. And we'll just put in the pickup date time. That way we can see where it came from and verify that it worked correctly. Okay, so we're just selecting our pickup and our drop-off date time. This is going to include the hour, the minute, the second. And then with this extract function, we're going to pull out the hour from the pickup date time and the hour from the drop-off date time. And then we're going to call them these new things: hour pickup, hour drop-off. Okay, so I can see in this first row, someone was picked up, it looks like at midnight, that's why it's 000, and then they were dropped off 6 minutes later. So the hour pickup and the drop-off hour is the same because they were both picked up at midnight, but the difference between the 2 of them is the minute. So we could do the same thing again, but instead of saying hour, we could change this to minute. And we're going to relabel this to minute. So we see the minute pickup is 0, and the minute drop off is 6 for this first row, 2 for the second, 15, 10, all the way down. So with this extract function, you can put in a lot of different keywords. You can extract hour, minute, second, millisecond, year, day, or month. So in this pickup date time, you have the year, the month, the day, the hour, the second, and the millisecond. And so just by typing in that keyword into this part right here, you can pull it out. So we could change these hours. Let's change it to year. Year pickup. And year drop off. And it's the same thing. So what we did is we extracted the year from our pickup. Boom. We extracted the year from our drop off. Bam. So the last thing that I'll show you is what if we wanted to find the difference between these two? How much time elapsed between our pickup and our drop off? BigQuery has a great function for that. It is called date diff, and we're going to do column 2, drop off, date time, pickup, date time, and then what unit do we want for the difference to be in? We'll do hour as time diff hours, and let's see what that looks like. And then let's change this back to hour up here. Okay. So you might wonder, why did I do the drop off date time first, then the pickup date time? What does that mean? With the date difference, you have what is the first value, and then the second value is what's going to be subtracted from it. So we don't want to do our pickup time minus our drop-off time, because then we're going to get negative time. We're going to go backwards. We want to see we ended at the drop-off, and then we minus the pickup to find the difference between the two of them. And you'll see that our time diff hours is 0. Why is that? Well, that's because all of these rides were less than an hour long. So what if we said where, and we're just going to do this date diff, we're going to copy and paste it, is greater than 1. So what we're saying is let's filter our rows to where the time difference between the pickup and the drop-off is at least an hour. Well, if it would say at least an hour. Let's look at that. Oh. So we see that the hour time in this is 0, and the hour time in this one is 1. And there are some minutes that are here too, so we're not being hyper specific. It doesn't say 1.001 hours or anything like that. It just gives it to the nearest whole round number. Okay, so let's just get rid of this. We could also do date diff if we wanted to do, instead of pulling the hour, we could pull the minute. So we're going to change this to minute. Time diff minutes. So we see here the hour 0, the hour's also 0, but the minutes are different. And we know right away looking at this, since this one started at midnight and this one ended at 28 minutes after midnight, that the minute difference should be 28. Yes, but the hour difference is 0. Your next question might be, well, what if I have something that's greater than 60 minutes. What's going to happen to this time diff in minutes? Will it keep counting up? Will it show me 108 minutes? Will it show me 200 minutes? Or will it just literally do this number or this number, the 28 minus the 0, and not account for the hour? Well, let's see. So we're going to do our same filter again. So we're just going to copy this. And we're going to say greater than 60. Let's see what happens. Okay, so this person was picked up at midnight. They were dropped off at 1 o'clock at 1:16. So they were picked up at midnight, 11 minutes. They're dropped off at 1:16. That's greater than 1 hour. What do we see? Bam, 65 minutes. So depending on what you're trying to do with your analysis, it might make sense that you need to go down to the minute, or you can say, you know, if we just have rounded hours, that's fine. We're looking at things that are many, many hours. The difference between, you know, cutting down to the minute or the millisecond is just not worth it. So you might be wondering, why are we doing all of this? Well, we're going to use these types of functions in the group bys in the later end of the module. So that's why we're taking a little bit of time to show you how to parse out and pull out these different functions. So this is going to be a really good slide for y'all to go ahead and screenshot and save in your notes. This is a summary table explaining all the different functions that we reviewed in this lesson with the formula and the description. So we have date. We can do date to a timestamp column, and then that'll just strip off the minute and the second component and return just the day, month, year. The as, that's our alias, and we call it a new name. And then this is the description, converts a timestamp to just the date. Extract allows us to pull an individual time component from either a date or a timestamp. So in this example, I have extract, and then I have in caps time frame. And so for time frame, you can put in any of these things: year, month, day, hour. If I want to extract year, that pulls out the year from the date or the timestamp. And then the as is the new name. And then the description is exactly as we just went over. Date difference is the time difference between two different columns. The only caveat with this one is that they need to be the same unit if you're going to find differences. So you can't find the date difference between something that has a timestamp down to the second and just the regular day. You would have to first convert your timestamp, strip it down to the day, and then find the difference. So that's here. Both columns must match, i.e. both timestamps, both dates. So what we learned how to extract, pull out components of dates. We learned how to strip a timestamp to only a date. And then we also found how to find the differences from the two timestamps. And we're going to use this information in our next lesson with our group by. See you then. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, I would be so appreciative if you could like the video and subscribe to help me create more content for you. Thank you.